YouTube. This month I've been an awful theatre fan. I have not really been to the theatre at all, but on Thursday I woke up really kind of early for me anyway, and I just thought I want to go to the theatre. So it was before day seating time, so most shows open their box offices at 10 AM, and so I thought, okay, I've got time, I could probably make it into Central for around 10:30, 15:15ish, so I'll run in and see what I can get. I've really wanted to see Funny Girl because I saw it at the Menier Chocolate Factory a couple of months ago, and now it's transferred to the Savoy Theatre, and I just really wanted to see it and to see how it was in the Savoy. So that was my first kind of point of call, and I ran there. As I was approaching the box office, this elderly couple were just walking away from the box office, and I thought, have they just got day seats or are they picking tickets up? Like, what? I'm just gonna go and risk it anyway. Went in and they said they literally just sold the last 2 day seats, so hope that elderly couple really enjoyed the show because I could have gone to see it. I was still in the mood to see something, so I thought, okay, plan B, let's run across the Strand and see if they've got any tickets left at Kinky Boots because their box office opens at 10:30. By this point it was about 25 to 11, so I quickly went over there and managed to get the last day seat ticket at Kinky Boots. Bearing in mind I hadn't queued at all, it'd obviously been fairly busy, but I picked up the last ticket. Callum Francis was on as Lola that evening, and he's the understudy for Matt Henry, so I was really excited at the prospect of seeing an understudy Lola. As well, it's been quite a while since I last saw Kinky Boots. It must have been last year, I think. I've done a couple of vlogs on it, so I will put those here if you want to go watch those. But yeah, I think it's definitely been quite a while since I last saw it. So I went about my day, perfectly normal, thinking, oh, I'm really excited, going to the theatre tonight. I kept on having these weird moments where I thought I was going to Funny Girl, and then I was like, no, you tried and you didn't get tickets for that. So that was weird anyway. And then that afternoon on Twitter, I saw this tweet, and it changed all of my plans. I've been a big fan of Charlotte Scott for a few years now. I saw her in Wicked when I first started seeing it in 2012. She was in the ensemble at the time, also covering Nessa Rose and Glinda. She was the second cover, I think, and I managed to see her in all of those roles while she was at Wicked. That was great. She then went on to be in Singing in the Rain and was understudying Kathy Selden. I managed to see her in that role. She was in Urinetown understudying Hope, the lead role. Managed to see her in that. You're sensing a trend here, right? She began in Matilda in 2014, and I was so thrilled for her. She's in the ensemble but also understudies Miss Honey, which I was so happy about because I love Matilda. I think Miss Honey is a great role and I knew she'd be perfect for it, so when I found out she got it I was like, yes. And as well, she's second cover for Mrs. Wormwood. I never thought that I would get the chance to see her as Mrs. Wormwood. With being a second cover, you don't get definite dates. You don't know when you're going to be on, so she basically gets kind of no warning. I had a bit of a moment where I was umming and ahhing, thinking, do I just carry on and go to Kinky Boots? Like, I'd feel really awful either like not being able to give that ticket to someone who really wanted it, or just having to buy Matilda ticket and keep the Kinky Boots ticket and leave an empty seat on the front row. Like, I had a real dilemma in my head because it's typical that this would happen on the one day of this whole month that I actually already bought a ticket for another show. So I quickly went to the Cambridge Theatre at about 6:45, I think. Let me get the ticket and see when I bought it. So yeah, on my ticket it says I purchased it at 6:38. So bearing in mind both shows start at 7:30. Obviously the Cambridge Theatre is on 7 Dials and Kinky Boots at the Adelphi is on the Strand. So I thought, okay, now I've got 2 tickets for 2 different shows. Brilliant. I quickly went back down to the Strand to see if I'd be able to return the ticket, but understandably they don't have a returns policy unless you have like an incredible excuse. They said I was like welcome to try and sell the ticket outside the theatre, but I couldn't do it within the theatre, which again is totally understandable. I took to Twitter and said, I've got a Kinky Boots front row ticket that I basically need to get rid of. Would anyone be interested in having it? A few lovely people retweeted it, and then thankfully this one guy replied and said, yeah, I'll have it, I'm in the area. And I was like, thank you. So he said that he was in the theatre cafe, and rather than wait for him at the Strand and then have to run up to 7 Dials again, I said I'll come meet you and we'll do the exchange. So I ran up to the theatre cafe, which is opposite Les Mis on Shaftesbury Avenue, from the Strand, and from there I quickly legged it back over to 7 Dials. I actually made it to the show with about 10 to 15 minutes to spare, which I'm quite impressed about. It's insane how quickly these things can happen. I've really missed that about being a crazy theatre fan, just running from theatre to theatre trying to organise tickets and yourself, and it was so worth it. Normally when I get to the theatre with time to spare, I'll have a quick check of the cast board just to see who's on out of curiosity. Obviously I don't mind understudies. I was specifically going to Matilda today to see a second cover playing a main role, so naturally I don't really care who's on. Therefore, I was very surprised when during Miracle, Zaris-Angel came out onto the stage from under that table, because she is the first black Matilda in the London production of Matilda. I was so happy when I saw the casting news announcing the new Matildas when I saw that she was on the lineup, because I think it's so important, especially in a show like this, which is no doubt inspiring so many children to want to get involved in performing and theatre, or just making them want to come to the theatre, to just involve so many more people and be inspired to join in and all of it. Not only that, but she is a phenomenal little actress. I genuinely think she's now my favourite Matilda, and I've probably seen about 7 or 8 of them now. I've kind of lost track of how many times I've seen Matilda. Her singing voice is absolutely gorgeous. Her diction is so great. I think that's the one thing I kind of not struggle with, but obviously it's understandable when the kids are that young playing a lead role. Sometimes it's a bit unclear in between the words, but she was really great for this. Her acting I thought was spot on. She was a really sassy Matilda, and I really liked that about her, and she was just absolutely perfect for the role, and I'm so grateful that I've been able to see her. We also had the understudy for Miss Trunchbull on, and that is Oliver Brooks. I'm really used to seeing Craig Else in the role of Miss Trunchbull, so whenever I see anyone else it's a bit like, whoa, this is different. But I really liked Oliver. I've seen him before actually. I think potentially the last time I saw the show he was on as well, and something's definitely changed between then and now, because I much preferred him this time round. I don't know why, but he was just really great this time. He definitely plays the role very differently to Craig, but I like that. I like that in this show they are allowed to play the part in their own way. Obviously the staging and everything stays the same because that is part of the show, like you can't change that, but it's kind of the facial expressions and the inflections on certain sentences, and yeah, he's just really funny in it. It's really nice to see how differently they act it. I feel like his voice was a lot stronger this time seeing him as well. I mean some of the songs for the Trunchbull are really challenging, so it's understandable, but I feel like this time he had a bit more power behind him. I think I did see the show in December last time though, so maybe there was some illness going around. Wouldn't be surprised. But anyway, really enjoyed his performance this time. Finally, obviously, I have to talk about Charlotte's performance as Mrs. Wormwood. Mrs. Wormwood is such a hilarious character. She gets to do so much in the show, and it must be quite exhausting to go on as Mrs. Wormwood, especially for the lead who has to do it every single night. Obviously Loud is the pivotal song for Mrs. Wormwood, and Charlotte just absolutely smashed it. I don't know how they manage it. There's just so much going on. It was really funny because all of the roles that I've seen her in, they're quite like beautiful roles, and I feel like, without insulting the character, Mrs. Wormwood is a little bit like rough around the edges. I kind of like the more common accent. No one kill me for that, please. It was just really interesting to see this different side of Charlotte's acting, and I really enjoyed that. I think as well, because of only seeing Charlotte and Matilda as her ensemble track, and Miss Honey, who's obviously quite a pure character and like very pure singing voice and everything like that, Mrs. Wormwood is such a contrast to that. That's probably what made it feel a lot different for me, but I mean, I love seeing Charlotte on stage. I feel like she works so hard, and it's really nice to see her get her time in the spotlight. Every understudy kind of deserves that moment, so it's always really great to be there when it happens. So those were my thoughts on seeing Matilda the Musical. It's definitely one of my favourite musicals. It's really got something for everyone. You could go as a group of adults, with a group of kids, it doesn't matter. I really feel like everyone's going to love it. If you'd like to see what I've thought of previous visits to Matilda, I'll link some videos down below for you to go and see. Do let me know if you've seen Matilda, and if so, what's your favourite part of it, or if you'd like to go and see it. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Do subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more of me in the future, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!